Welcome to Food Friends, a podcast inspiring home cooks to try new dishes in the kitchen by sharing trusted recipes, tips, and friendship. Hi, I'm Sonia.
And I'm Carrie. We met in Los Angeles over 15 years ago as personal chefs and haven't stopped talking about food since. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Carrie.
Sonia, what was your best bite this week?
So, Carrie, my best bite has been my best bite for a few weeks now.
What?
Yeah, it started at summer camp when I was teaching at summer camp. And one of the classes I was teaching was actually how to make sabich, which we've talked about before, which is an Iraqi Jewish sandwich where it's like pita stuffed with fried eggplant and salad and usually either tahini or hummus or hummus. Okay, my mom gets mad at me every time I say hummus on the show. She listens to our show. She's like, why are you saying hummus? It's hummus. So forgive me.
I'll say it the hummus way since that's the only way I know how to say it.
I just have to say that because I also feel like sometimes I remember always being so triggered when Giada would suddenly say something in a very heavy Italian accent.
Totally.
And so I understand that my pronunciation might be triggering for some, so it's my trigger warning. But anyway, it's a 5-minute hummus. The recipe comes from Michael Solomonov. I taught it as part of this class because I wanted the teenagers to have an easy sauce dip entertaining element they could all feel confident to make. And I had known about this recipe and made it prior to teaching it, but in teaching it, it made me fall in love with it because it is truly so delicious. And what people think about homemade hummus is that you have to make it from dried garbanzo beans. You have to serve it warm. There's all these theories, right? They say you have to cook your garbanzo beans with a little bit of baking soda.
Right.
Some people, like Smitten Kitchen, had this article where she's like, you must peel each individual chickpea to have creamy hummus. And I know people who do. No, people do it. And then you're spending hours. But somehow Michael Solomonov is a genius, and his recipe really works to make the creamiest homemade hummus from canned chickpeas. So it's all about technique. What you do is you start by making a tahini sauce, but you're making it in a very specific way. And you really do want to make this either in a food processor or a blender. I actually made it in a NutriBullet at camp. So you don't need a food processor.
You don't need any fancy equipment for this.
You don't need a fancy blender. I actually think a less fancy blender is better. A food processor is best. So how you start is you add some tahini. Okay, this is the other secret. You need a substantial amount of tahini, which is sesame paste. It's not 2 spoonfuls. You're making a big batch here. I have the recipe. If you're making the full batch with 2 cans of beans, you use a full jar of tahini.
Where, by the way, there's a place I go to down the end of my street, Dr. Sandwich, where they have the creamiest hummus I've ever had in my life. And I am for sure that it is like half chickpeas, half tahini. That's what makes it so
That's what makes it
creamy.
good.
Yeah.
That's what good hummus is. It's not a low-calorie dish, by the way. It's not supposed to be. So you're adding in that full jar. You're adding in a garlic clove and lemon juice. You blend that. It gets kind of pasty and chunky, and you freak out a little bit. It's supposed to be that way. And then you add ice cold water. This is the key. It has to be ice cold. You drizzle that in as it's going, or if you're using a blender, you just dump it all in. It's going to work out. And then it becomes a creamy tahini sauce. You can keep that as its own tahini sauce. Oh, I think you also add like cumin. You could also add whatever spices you like.
Right.
So you already have an amazing tahini sauce. Now you just add your rinsed, drained chickpeas from a can to that, and you process it until it's smooth, which can take 2 or 3 minutes. So really give it a time, and you will be shocked by how truly smooth it is. And it stays smooth and creamy and rich and flavorful, and it really does take 5 minutes.
I mean, there's so many things that I love about this, but I think to back up, it's like coming to a recipe, how you come to a recipe, and then when you teach a recipe. And you want the teenagers who are learning how to cook from you, you want to teach them how to make something that they can go back to their house and make, or make when they're in college, something that's healthy and delicious. And everyone loves a snack, you know? But I think, what are the pieces of this that actually make it taste good? Because that's what will bring you back to this recipe time and time again. Even though it really is a 5-minute blender recipe, it's like that really gets them thinking. Starting with something that you can really have success with is going to make you want to cook it more and more. And in this case, not cook it at all, just blend it up.
And then it kind of inspires other meals. So one night in the week, I had some leftover chicken, which could have been a rotisserie chicken. In this case, it was just like a leftover roast chicken. So I heated some of that up just like in a pan. I got it kind of crisped up, heated up. And then I made a salad of tomatoes and cucumbers. I shredded some cabbage and I made pita pockets. I found really good pita and I just filled it with the hummus, with the chicken, with the salads. It was a great late summer meal where it's hot out. You don't want to cook for too long. It took me 2 seconds to heat up some chicken. And then it was just about assembling something, but it was so satisfying and also felt really nourishing.
For me, my son will eat hummus. And so that's something I can put in his lunchbox instead of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I recently discovered these pretzel pita chips, which he loves. And so being able to make this for him and put it into his lunch to send him to camp or to send him to school, it's like a great vegetarian protein. And it's not another peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which he sometimes gets tired of.
Well, Carrie, what was your best bite of the week?
Well, Sonia, I am very excited to report that I made the red pepper relish from our Summer Farmers Market episode. And it was something that I really wanted to try because whatever peppers you find at your farmer's market or even at your grocery store, you can do whatever mix that you want. So I went to the farmer's market. I bought a bunch of peppers, which made me think of you. I pulled out a few Jimmy Nardellos, which I think is your favorite pepper, right?
I love that pepper, yeah.
But I used pimentos. I went to a stand. They had all these different kind of peppers. I just picked whatever, beautiful, red, yellow, orange, green, like every different color. I went home. I washed them all. I dried them. I put them on a sheet pan. And instead of firing up my grill, I just fired up my broiler. And I let them get charred on the sides. I moved them around a little bit. It takes a little bit of time, but it's very hands-off time. Once I was done, I peeled them all, which I will say while I was doing it, I was a little bit like, this is a bit tedious.
Yeah.
But it felt like one of those summer rituals when you have this beautiful bounty. And so I peeled all the peppers. The recipe recommends that you hand chop them. So you kind of want to chop them into like a salsa shape, small bite size. Don't put them in the food processor because you will definitely puree them. And then you just add a little bit of olive oil, any kind of vinegar you want. I added a sherry vinegar, which had like a nice sharpness to it. I added a handful of herbs. I think I used a little bit of parsley, a little bit of fresh oregano. And I packed this into a picnic that we took to the park. I think Shakespeare in the Park is a summer tradition. It's become a summer tradition in my house. And so we went to the park. I had toasted some bread. I brought some goat cheese. I smeared a little bit of goat cheese on each of the little crostinis. I put a little bit of the red pepper relish on top. And honestly, I could have just had that for dinner and I would have been so happy.
What else did you serve?
Well, we went with Maylin and her family, and so we each brought different things. So besides my red pepper crostinis, I also made this really great, it was a bulgur wheat and corn salad. And I added a lot of lime and herbs, and that was really delicious. Maylin brought that Hetty Lui McKinnon tomato salad with dumplings. Do you know this salad?
Interesting. I think I've seen it, but I've never tried it.
It's a dumpling salad. And then she also made a broccoli spoon salad, which is totally different than the Sola version that you and I talked about. This one is like bigger pieces of broccoli and it has ras el hanout in it. There's no dairy in it. It's really delicious. I will link that recipe too because I was like, I could eat this every week.
We need all the recipes. Please ask Maylin for them if you don't have them.
I will link all the recipes. And then for dessert, Maylin made sour cherry pies. She and I talked about like, where are we going to get the sour cherries? Who's going to get to go to the farmer's market? But I found the sour cherries, Sonia, at the Russian market.
This is what I told you.
Yes.
They have frozen sour cherries, right?
They had both.
They had both fresh and frozen. Yeah.
I first went to the freezer and I had bought some a couple of weeks before that, but I had used them for other things. And so I went back, I found the frozen ones, but as I was checking out, they had a big box of fresh sour cherries. And so I took sour cherries to Maylin. I've been putting frozen sour cherries in Mac's smoothies every morning, which adds such a great flavor and also adds that like creamy coldness to your smoothie. Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating!